Hello, this is Susmita. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I would like to share my experience with the new die cutting machine that I have ordered online. This is from wrmk. This is the mini evolution. Though I have a big die cutting machine, which is an electronic machine from Gemini, but I thought that a smaller die cutting machine would be quite helpful because there are times when I am unable to use the bigger machine and I feel very lazy to use it just for a 2 inch or 3 inch size die cutting knives I mean. So I went ahead and ordered this online, and today I'm going to unbox it and share my experience with you one by one. So what we see in this box is a manual instruction which shows us that how to make sandwich, whether for using a die cutting knife or an embossing folder. So this clearly it's nothing major, not very big description or anything. Two parts. The bottom part is for the embossing folder and the upper part is for the die cutting knife. So here we have got three different things. One is the embossing folder, one is the nesting die they have provided, that there are I think so total 8. I will count that later. And like yes, there's a nesting dies, there are 8 of them. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, yes, 8. And then we have two embossing folders. One has this polka dot and one has this like zigzag filling. And then we have these three plates. One plate is the buffer plate marked as B, and then there is a cutting plate marked as C, and there is an embossing plate marked as E. There's a difference between two plates, that a buffer plate B is bit thicker than the buffer embossing plate E. So you will notice one thing, the buffer plate will be used often, quite often, whether on the cutting plate or on the embossing plate. And this is the one which I'm holding in my hand, is the cutting plate. So anything like die or anything you're going to place is going to leave a mark on that gray color plate. That is the plate C, the cutting plate. Now let's see what else we have got. So they have provided us with card stocks. So there must be 50 card stocks with two different colors. One I can see light cream and white. Now let's see the machine. So here is the machine, the cute little machine. Even though it's not electronic, you have to do it like manually, but it's just perfect. Now, what I have heard that this has got suction underneath the built. You see the material; it's quite nice, not quite heavy, and there is the suction thing underneath. So we'll check that out also. And there's the handle. You can extend it if you want to, like for your grip or anything. And yes, so we'll place this on the mat. That is the lever or any whatever you call it. So you pull it down and that will hold the mat. That didn't work for me. I felt it, but it didn't work for me completely. So I tried. No, it didn't work again. I feel that this is going to work on like glass tabletop or a table with stone, like stone top. So yeah, it did work that time. So now let us experiment with one of the embossing folder. I prefer this polka dot, so I'll just I'll take one of this cardstock. Oh, there are three cardstocks. So this cardstock that they have provided is not quite thick, too light. So I'm going to place this cardstock inside the embossing folder, and I'm going to place my embossing plate, that is E, that is a bit thin. As I can see over here what they actually told me to do. I'm going to take my plate E, that is the embossing plate. Then I'm going to the buffer plate, which is plate B, that is going to be at the top. It's very simple, nothing very complicated to understand. So embossing plate will be first plate, and on top of that you're going to place your embossing folder with the cardstock in, and then you place your buffer plate, that is plate B, on top. And now we are going to pass it through the die cutting machine. My suction cup is not working on this cutting mat, but I'm going to try it later on my glass table. But anyway, this is not going to be that difficult for me to do. So I'm trying, holding. So let's try again. So I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. Okay, you can see it is very easy, it's not at all hard. Since it's smaller in size, so it won't take much time. It's perfect for all the small die cutting, knives. You don't have to use the big machine. Now you see it has done so nicely those polka dot feeling on this cardstock. Can you see the dots? I'll turn the other way around and you can see like whole feeling. So I've already done the polka dots. I have also done this zigzag one using the zigzag type of folder. I really don't know what it is called, but yeah, it's really beautiful. You can see that. Now we are going to test with our knives. I'm going to test my knife now. So for that, I will use one of this cardstock which I have embossed already because it looks like a pattern. So there's already a pattern like the polka dots pattern. So I will use it for my die cutting now. So I'm going to use this one of the circle dies that they have provided with this machine. I really literally struggled to open this and unable to get it out. I was just struggling there. So I actually thought to fast forward this part. Here we are. Now I can say what the size like. It's 3 inch as you can see. The bigger die, the bigger circle is 3 inches. So I'm going to use now my cutting plate which is C, and then again I'm going to use my buffer plate B as shown in the direction. So you see one thing, the buffer plate is repeating whether for embossing or whether for cutting a knife. So place this here, and I know that suction cup is not working on this. Anyway, we are going to use this embossed card already for my die cutting knife. I am going to use the bigger one. We'll place the knife side down and pass it through this die cutting machine. I will tell you one thing, even though suction cup is not working, it might work on different platform, but this is just so nice and comfy. It becomes a little bit difficult if the machine is not holding the table or the die or the cutting mat, but overall so comfortable, and I really love this one. I'll find a glass top not at all a difficult part. So now we have passed the embossed cardstock using our die cut knife on it. So it has left a mark on the glass on that this thing you can see. Now I didn't realize before that I actually used 2 cardstocks over there. So we really don't need that one. So here you can see it has cut beautifully 2-3 inch circles for me. But when I use this embossed cardstock and passed it through the machine, most of the polka dot has flattened. So I'm thinking I'm going to place this cardstock back again and pass it through the die cutting machine. So I'm going to use again my embossing plate and the buffer plate, and I'll pass it through the machine. Passing the embossing folder is much easier than the die cutting plate. That's what I felt, because it's the embossing folder is not cutting or anything, but the die cutting knife, my suction cup is not at all working underneath. So anyway, the thing is that I embossed it again, and it looks really nice. You can color it, and you can use it for any project you want. You see, you can, but it's not exactly 3 inches. The end result is less than 3 inches. Okay, so we'll do one thing. This was the knife that I have used, provided by the company. I mean, it came with this die cutting machine. I really like that. That has a stitch look also. But see, it has also left that knife mark on the cutting plate. See, I really don't like it, but that's all right. So I'm going to use one of my own die cutting knife. So I want to see, because this is not paper thin, a little bit, not very thin and not very thick, but I want to see how it goes on this one. So I'm going to use another embossed cardstock that I've embossed before, and I'm going to pass it through this machine. So I'm just trying out my different die cutting knife this time, and not the knife provided with this machine. There's another die cutting knife. I really like this one. I'm going to place it on this embossed cardstock, and we will pass it through the machine right now. I'll show you. I placed it on my cutting plate, that's plate C, and again I'm going to use the buffer plate, plate B. We are using the buffer plate, like I have said always, whether it's embossed for embossing or whether for cutting. So I'm going to run this through my, since you see, since the suction is not working, it becomes a little bit difficult because the die cutting machine is moving. So I definitely recommend that you have a glass bottom or something. It's not at all hard. So one thing I have noticed, that my other die cutting knives, which is a little bit thicker than the knife that they have provided, it also works. Maybe it takes a little bit pressure, but it works perfectly fine. You can see how beautifully it has die cut. So it's like embossed for cardstock with, and then there's a die cut on it. You can see yourself that it has done its job. So I'm going to try again and pass my that slim die cut knife through the machine again. So this one was not difficult at all. I feel different die cut knives, they vary from each other about the density, about the thickness. So, yeah, it's not much of an effort, you see, and it does its job amazingly. See how beautifully it has cut my cardstock. I will use this for one of my projects. It's just so cute. So this machine is just worth having it. I'm so much in love with this machine. It's perfect because I don't want to use my electronic machine all the time for this little dice. And this is not, and this is the cutting place. See, it has left a mark again on the other side. It's always important that you keep on turning your plates so that it doesn't warp. So do not use the embossing plate on top of the cutting plate. You always use the buffer plate. Embossing plate is for embossing only, and the buffer plate is a bit thicker, and buffer plate used for, in both cases, whether it's for die cutting or for embossing. So this is for embossing, this too, and for die cutting I have shown. I hope you liked my product review today. I have really enjoyed it, except that it didn't suck nicely on the table, on the cutting mat, but I will get a glass bottom for it soon for myself. And I really love this machine. You should go and get it for yourself. I'll experiment with it. I will experiment with it later on and see different platforms it can really work or stick to. You can see that's like working, but it's not working on this cutting mat. So if you have liked my video today, do subscribe and like and share. Thank you very much, and this is really worth it. You should have one for yourself. Not very big, lightweight, and a must in a craft room. Thanks for watching. Bye.